And good morning. Do not confuse 30 years of experience for your Google search or vice versa. We'll talk about that and more right after this.
I want to be your disability rep.
And we're back. How was your weekend?
Busy. Yours?
Yeah, pretty busy. Yeah, nobody shot at you this weekend?
No, nobody shot at me. No.
Then we're ahead of at least one guy.
Yeah, no kidding. I actually, I did work on the roof of the lake house quite a bit at an angle that was too steep for the Secret Service. So
yeah.
I've got that on them.
Well, yeah, so 2 for 2 on that one. So you probably run up on this every once in a while, and I do too. Well, my friend's case, I was on the internet, and I know that. Mm-hmm. How do you like to handle that?
Yeah, it comes up.
You know how I like to handle it?
Yeah.
There's the door.
Yeah.
See ya.
It comes up pretty often, actually. You know, people do some research, and I've had a few clients through the years. I have one current client right now that is very well informed. He's done tons of research. I don't really understand why.
Yeah.
But he's done an enormous amount of research, and he talks to me a lot of times more like a colleague than a client, and it's really pretty impressive, actually.
And to be clear, I don't mind the research. I mind the arguing with me about the way things work.
Yeah, one thing that kind of always jumps out in that conversation, to me at least, is that if you're able to do all this research and all this preparation and stuff, it demonstrates that you have the capacity to do some work or activities, right?
Yeah, that's kind of a problem.
Yeah, it is kind of a problem.
Your cases, isn't it?
And you'll see people come in hearings sometimes. They'll take tons of notes and they'll scribble and they'll ask questions and they're really engaged and they're really involved. And gosh, that looks a lot like work. Yeah. Same thing with schoolwork. People go back to college or go back to some sort of vocational tech school or whatever. I mean, it's the capacity to learn, to uptake new information, to regurgitate it when the time comes, apply it. I mean, it's all very much work or functions. But yeah, there is a real danger in trying to rely on other people's experiences with the Social Security Administration, and that includes things like the Reddit and the Google searches and the chat rooms and and that sort of stuff too. Unfortunately, Social Security is much more complicated than what most people understand.
Well, as are most things involving the law.
Yes. Yeah. But it's interesting to me. I'm on a couple different Facebook groups, and people go through and post questions, and just the responses and how incredibly varied they are.
Yeah.
There's a real danger in this, and you really need to reach out to somebody who's been through this before, has an understanding of the program in general and at large, as opposed to people who have just that individual experience with it.
Well, for sure, and there are no two cases that are the same, regardless.
No.
Particularly in your field, people have different physical capabilities, they have different educational backgrounds, different levels of experience. So regardless of how similar the case may seem, they're probably nothing alike in reality.
Exactly. And it's interesting, we think back through our own personal lives, we've encountered people who had disabilities, right? And you can have two people that have essentially the same X-ray or MRI findings, but the way they live their life and the way it affects them is drastically different.
Oh, yeah.
I have clients all the time that have been doing physical jobs with herniated discs in their back, and you scratch your head and you wonder how. My dad, when he was alive, and I have a good close personal friend too that had, marked degenerative degenerative joint disease of both knees. Ultimately had to have knee replacements. Dad was a welder. He was on his ground, crawling around all the time. Another friend of mine worked on helicopters for a living. And, he was up on ladders, adjusting rotors, and he was down crawling around and in tight, confined spaces. And, some people just have that ability to keep going, and the impact isn't nearly as great, even though the condition is as bad.
Yeah.
And so if you try to compare those two people from a judge's perspective, one person may get approved, one person may not. Fair? No, not at all.
Right.
But it is kind of reality, is that some people have that ability, higher pain level maybe, but they have that ability to keep to keep keeping on, I guess, for lack of a better term.
I guess that's right. Well, if you have questions about this or something else, feel free to call. The number's on the screen, 417-812-6698. Roy's standing by on his phone today.
Yeah, I've got time this afternoon, guys, so give me a ring. If you want to come in and see me, we can make that happen today, too.
All right. Thanks for being with us, Roy, and we'll see you guys next week.
I want to be your disability rep.